There are quite a few plug-in hybrid vehicles out on the market, but most of them are crossover SUVs. If you want a car PHEV, then the 2026 Toyota Prius is your only option, unless you go for the luxury brands. But cars like the Honda Clarity and the original Hyundai Ioniq plug-in hybrid are gone. So how is it that the Toyota Prius survived where the others have disappeared? Let's go for a drive and find out. So the first thing you should know about this version of the Prius is that it's no longer called the Prime. It's now just called the Prius PHEV. I guess for people that are coming into Toyota, don't really know what Prime means, whereas PHEV, everybody knows what it means. Under the hood is a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, which is aided by a few electric motors. Total output is 220 horsepower. As for the torque, Toyota doesn't really like to say how much torque the overall system produces, but the engine torque is 139 pound-feet. This is more than enough power in everyday city or highway driving. Sure, it's not going to make the Prius PHEV blisteringly fast because 0 to 100 kilometers an hour takes just under 7 seconds, but it doesn't feel like as though it's struggling to go up a hill or merge onto a highway or just set off from a stop. Being a PHEV, you can switch between hybrid driving and full electric driving. In hybrid driving, it's just like every other Toyota hybrid vehicle. The engine provides power in conjunction with the electric motors to get you up to speed. Then once you are up to speed and you let off the throttle just a little bit, the engine shuts off and the electric motors keep you at that speed for brief periods. If you switch it to EV mode, then the engine will never turn on even if you go full throttle. But the electric motor does feel like as though it has enough power to, again, get you up to speed from a stop or merge onto a highway. Of course, because the engine isn't running, the acceleration won't be as fast as when the engine is also helping. But again, even so, it's more than enough power. When you are in that EV mode, you'll have up to 72 kilometers of driving range, at least for the base SE trim. The higher XSE trim only has about 64 kilometers of driving range, at least that's what it's rated for, and I think it's probably because of the bigger wheels and tires. During my time with this XSE Nightshade Edition, I managed to get about 70 kilometers of driving range just using electricity, and that is with climate control running. Of course, for you, it might be different. It all depends on climate control usage, your driving style, whether you go up a lot of hills or not, so there are quite a few number of factors. As for the fuel economy, if you decide to drive it in the hybrid mode or leave it with a completely depleted battery, then you'll be getting about 4.6 liters per 100 kilometers in a city and 5 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway. Again, that's for this XSE trim. The SE trim is slightly better. However, because it is a plug-in hybrid, the actual fuel economy really depends on how often you can plug it in. For example, right now, I'm averaging 2.7 liters per 100 kilometers, and I've driven this car for about 300 kilometers. The Prius PHEV doesn't have a one-pedal mode. However, you can switch the gear selector into B, and then you'll get a strong regen braking mode. You can also put the gear selector in B while the car is in the hybrid mode. However, from what I've noticed, the engine doesn't really turn off quite as often as if you would just leave it in regular D. Recharging the 13.6 kilowatt-hour battery takes approximately 4 hours from a level 2 charger and about 11 hours from a regular wall socket. As for the driving dynamics, the Prius was never designed to be a fun car on a twisty road. But with that being said, this new generation Prius handles quite well around corners. The steering is sharp and the car doesn't give you the feeling that it's going through a corner at 45 degrees. There are definitely more fun to drive mainstream cars out there, but this Toyota Prius is surprising and a huge improvement compared to the previous generation. Unlike the regular hybrid Prius, this PHEV version does not have all-wheel drive. It's front-wheel drive only. The ride of the 2026 Toyota Prius PHEV is not too bad. Most bumps are well absorbed by the suspension, but when you drive on rougher roads, it does get a little bit jarring. For me, these seats are plenty comfortable, they have just enough support, and I didn't feel any back pain on longer commutes to and from work. As for cabin noises, obviously when the engine is not running, you don't hear any engine noises, but when the engine is running, it gets very buzzy every time that you put your foot down. The rest of the time, it's mostly tire noise that you hear, and it can get a little bit loud, especially on highways. In the front, taller adults like me at 6'4" have enough space. Legroom is more than plentiful and headroom is good so long as the seat is lowered. Unfortunately, this new generation Prius has a lower roofline than the previous one, which does impede on the interior headroom. In the back seats, this lack of headspace is much more noticeable, but at least legroom is decent with my knees gently brushing up against the back of the front seat behind my tall driving position. The trunk accommodates 575 liters of space. That is a significant drop compared to the previous generation's 776 liters. There is some small item storage underneath the trunk floor, and the rear seats can fold down 60/40. It does not have a spare wheel, and instead it does use a tire repair kit. The 2026 Toyota Prius PHEV starts at $40,050 Canadian for the SE trim. The XSE starts at $44,785 Canadian, with the top spec XSE Premium costing $48,535 Canadian. The one that I drove was the XSE with the Nightshade package, which cost an additional $895 Canadian. The 2026 Prius is packed with more technology than ever before. The usual features are still present, like heated front and rear seats, heated steering wheel, automatic climate control, wireless phone charging pad, keyless entry with push-button start, power driver seat with memory, and so on. But it now has a lot of extra convenience features such as ventilated front seats, a dual-pane sunroof, surround view cameras, a large infotainment touchscreen, a power liftgate, and parking assist. But one of the most polarizing changes to the interior of the Prius is the driver instrumentation cluster. It's positioned far away from the steering wheel and closer to the bottom of the windshield. This allows the display to be closer to the driver's field of vision when looking ahead. However, the big problem is that no matter how you adjust the steering wheel, it either blocks a portion of the display or the steering wheel is touching your legs. Worse yet, if you're the type that likes to hold the steering wheel at the 12th position, your hand will completely block the driver instrumentation screen. The rest of the interior, however, is a nice update over the last generation. The climate controls are still physical, the touchscreen is large but not over the top, and there's even a strip of ambient lighting incorporated into the dash. My only gripe is with the piano black plastic that surrounds the center console controls and the cup holders. As you know, this material attracts dust, scratches, fingerprints, and so on, so it's not going to look great after a long period of time. Visibility around the car is good. Blind zones are not too big, and the view out the back is decent. A rear camera mirror is available, but only on the XSE Premium trim. In the end, this is no longer your parents' Prius anymore. It actually looks like something that you would want to own. It's also the most powerful Prius to date, but without sacrificing fuel economy, and it's available with convenience features that one would want in a city car. So why is it one of the last car PHEVs that's available on the market, at least for mainstream cars? Well, firstly, it's a Toyota, so it's going to last a very long time. But I suspect the biggest reason is because other auto manufacturers are placing their bets on EVs, whereas Toyota is placing all of their money on hybrids. But either way, this is the best that survived out of the ones that were available in the past. And if you would like to know more about this 2026 Toyota Prius PHEV, I have a more detailed written review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up here. And as always, I will see you in the next car, truck, or most likely it'll be an SUV next time. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you in the next one.